10 days Vipassana meditation retreat. I feel completely revitalized, energized, at peace in and out. Well, not quite. If I'm completely honest, I had to break camp and fake an emergency to get out of there after only 23 hours. I know I'm going to take heat for this, but we talk about truth a hell of a lot on this channel, so I'm just going to give you my truth as it was, my experience. For those of you not already familiar with Vipassana, or insight meditation, is the practice of continued close attention to a sensation through which one ultimately sees the true nature of existence. It is an ancient mindfulness meditation technique that involves observing your thoughts and emotions as they are, without judging or dwelling on them. And those new to Vipassana will be expected to follow 5 prescripts. First up, refrain from harming or taking another's life. Second, no stealing. Third, no sexual misconduct or self-gratification. Fourth, no false speech or lies. And 5, no intoxicants. And all this with a healthy dose of silence for 10 days, along with some other stuff that we'll get into in a little bit. Oh, and did I say complete silence for 10 days. Now, with that out of the way, back to the title of the video. And I think it's clear to see from the title, this is not going to be one of those glowing reviews and reports that tell you to rush out there and get yourself signed up to Vipassana. And some of you might be wondering why I booked myself on the course at all. And the reason for that is a very good friend of mine that I've known for some time has been going for 10 years now and sees massive value in it. However, our experiences couldn't have been any further apart. And there may be no easy way to say this, but the first thing that sprung to my mind was prison, loss of liberty and control. First off, upon arriving, you have to pretty much sign your life away and sign that you will stay for the entire duration of the 10 days, irrespective of what happens, something that will later be reinforced. Then all participants will be asked to put all of their valuables, including their mobile phones and any other form of technology that could see you link or connect with the outside world, into a locker that will be locked in itself, with the doors of that room locked behind it and not to be opened for the entire duration of the 10 days. Now that might not sound too bad unless you're 17 and addicted to your phone, but here's where it gets worse. You will be assigned a number, like you were in Squid Game. I was 39 for those that care. Then you'll be issued a cell number. And this cell will be just like a prison in nature, not necessarily in size, and yes, you are free to come and go. However, you'll be sharing with a cellmate. And the conditions, well, let's just say they weren't the worst. However, the very fact that you had to keep the window open, along with the heating off, although visually you might not suffer, but mentally you will certainly be challenged. Then there were the boundaries. The boundaries of the car park, first of all, which was locked after arrival, might I add, so there was no chance that if you wanted to do a runner in the night that would be possible. But then there was the actual boundaries of the areas on which the men and women could respectively occupy. And I say that because yes, I'm aware that there was 2 courses running simultaneously and the women and men were not meant to mix. However, there was something about the boundaries themselves, clearly defining the areas, and then the wider perimeter being outlined that sort of reinforced this prison-like environment. I remember getting close to the boundary at one point and somebody approaching me saying, "It looks like somebody's got lost," and spinning me back round and pointing me in another direction. Then there's the sleep deprivation. Try going to sleep at 10 PM and waking up at 4 AM. Now I know 6 hours may be a healthy amount for some people, but not for me. And if you're one of those people that craves 8 hours sleep a night, this might be something that you struggle with. But I don't know what's worse, being tired or being hungry, because do not expect more than 2 meals in the day. You will get your breakfast after a 2-hour meditation, a light lunch at dinner time, then nothing but a cup of tea and a piece of fruit if you're lucky, to last you from 12 o'clock till 6:30 the next morning. And as for the meditations themselves, this will be something you have to attend, as a head count is done with ease due to your name and number. And on that, I was running 60 seconds late to a meditation, to which there was already somebody being sent to my room to collect me. And don't think for 1 minute to open your eyes, because before I knew it, somebody was right at the side of me, appeared out of nowhere like an assassin, as I was told, you need to close your eyes and do the work. But on this occasion, not referring to me by my number, but actually by my name. Again, maybe my paranoia, but this certainly spooked me a little bit. And this wasn't just me. I saw a lady leave at one point from the other side of the meditation hall to swiftly be collected and brought back, as we were told not to leave the room when the audible guided meditation was playing. And this the same voice that we would see in video format later that night that reinforced our commitment to the 10 days and that his people would not be letting us leave if the thought had entered our mind. Crossed my mind, it certainly crossed my mind, 23 hours in to what felt like incarceration, and through meditating in excruciating 8 out of 10 pain, sat on the floor, I knew it wasn't for me and there was only one thing to do, and that was plot my escape. Unfortunately, because of the dark evenings, they'd suggested we bring a torch, and with that I took off into one of the fields with a vague idea of where I'd parked, and luckily I'd not left my valuables in the locker and I'd chosen to leave them in my car instead. So a quick text message with an SOS to my fiancée and the emergency call was inbound. 3 words spring to mind: toxic self-development. Now I'll tag a video up here by 𝐎𝐧𝐞 that digs right into this world. That said, I'm not saying Vipassana sits under this title. However, this idea of positioning front and centre that we as people are not enough is not acceptable. Self-development, mindset, motivation, all this stuff that we speak of has a place, has a purpose. But as I've said in some of my other videos, it is not for everyone. And if you are completely happy as you are, that is fine. And you certainly do not need somebody telling you that in some way you aren't enough.
You're all dying a slow, miserable death thanks to this cult of self-improvement.
Now, before I get completely ripped apart for this, yes, I did leave early, so this is not a fair review. However, there was just an odour, a stench, there was something in the air that for me just didn't sit right. And to be completely fair to it, in even the short amount of time that I was there were a few things that I did take away that I will be applying to my life going forward. So here's what I learned, because it certainly wasn't all bad. First off, taking the time out to sit, think and reflect is a great thing. You actually hear of people like Bill Gates and Richard Branson penciling time out of their diary to have what they call these thinking weeks, where they've got no objectives, no agendas, nothing to process in the way of business, purely just time to sit back and think. Next up, slowing the activity and reactiveness of the mind. Through sitting there and taking the time out, it brought massive awareness to how active my mind is and how reactive I am to things. And this became evident as we were supposed to sit and concentrate on our breath. But quickly, very quickly, our mind would wander, and it would almost wander within seconds. And you know something? That wasn't anything compared to an average day as to how many times my thoughts would change in milliseconds. Something that I'm sure we can all relate to. And yeah, I'll admit it, the food. Do you know what? Although I was starving, I was genuinely starving. It made me realise that as people, or certainly myself as a greedy little pig, I have the tendency to, if your stomach is 100% for example, I always want to fill it 100%. I don't feel satiated or satisfied unless I'm completely brimming it. Whereas the reality is, that's not healthy. It's gluttonous and it's unnecessary. So already since returning, I've realised I don't need a starter, a main and a dessert. And I actually replaced this weekend's takeaway with a side only. Then there's distraction. How much of the day are we distracted by these things? How much time do we spend distracted by our phones, not connected with the world and those around us? So to do somewhat of a digital detox is certainly not a bad thing. And I'm pleased to say, since returning, my phone has been actually turned off more than it's been on. Something that I'm looking to carry forward in living less of a distracted life. So, Vipassana, in truth, my truth, I'm glad that I left. And the reason why I'm glad is that my personality is one of a stubborn kind. A few years back, I went vegetarian just because my missus went vegetarian, in somewhat of a challenge to see who would fold first. For those of you that have seen Trainspotting may be familiar.
Take Sick Boy, for instance. He came off junk at the same time as me, not because he wanted to, you understand, but just to annoy me, just to show me how easily he could do it, thereby downgrading my own struggle.
But if you think about it, stubbornness is to be controlled by your ego, and therefore just to stay to prove to other people that I could do it, in spite of not enjoying my experience, would be to surrender to others. The same way I was controlled for 4 years, not eating meat, to be this Dennis the Menace type character, not free nor liberated. Whereas this time round, I'm again decreasing my meat consumption, but I'm doing that because I want to. And leaving Vipassana early was the exact same mindset. The very friend that advised that I go there regularly asks me this question: are you happy with your life? And if you were to die tomorrow, would you have changed anything? And since I've known him, my answer has been no. And more recently, that's because I am immensely grateful and happy with the quality of my life and its outcomes. Therefore, with that sentiment in mind, the thought of staying at Vipassana for another 10 days and keeping myself away from a life that I'm immensely grateful for, that I love to live, one that I've worked extremely hard to create, is for me not a life of happiness and a potential failure. It is not one of integrity, honesty, and more importantly, living my truth. Who knows, maybe it just wasn't my time. And with that said, I'd love to know, have you been to Vipassana? Are you looking to go to Vipassana? Drop me your comments below, let me know about your experiences. Did I leave too early? Have I missed something? Did you feel the same? Remember to check out James Jarney's videos on personal development. Keep living your truth, and I'ma see you real soon.